Mexican police just found 49 headless bodies, and this was in the city of Monterrey. So it turns out that the war on drugs has been very successful. A few days prior to that, Mexican officials also found 18 bodies. They were decapitated, and 23 people were killed in Nuevo Laredo. So violence is in full force in Mexico, so the war on drugs has been successful.
Watch TV and get stoned and lay back. They want to go surf and smoke a joint. Or they want to walk around Paris and smoke. Well, they smoke some other weird stuff here, like cannabis, but they still get high. Exploration. They want to explore. There's a point in life when they want to try things. Same with alcohol. Same with tobacco. A lot of kids have smoked tobacco and then they stop. Or they became addicted. But they explored. There was some point they wanted to try things. Big reason why people use drugs. To answer to pressure. There's a lot of pressure, especially among younger kids, that they push them, their peers push them to use drugs, or even older people get the pressure. Physical stimulus, or to enhance performance. A lot of religious and spiritual reasons. Ayahuasca on the Amazon, San Pedro in the north of Chile. Cannabis for Rastafarians, or even in India. There are a lot of reasons that are religious or spiritual that make people use drugs that are illegal. A lot of people find happiness on using drugs. They find happiness on smoking a joint. They find happiness on taking ecstasy. They find happiness on shooting themselves with heroin. You can judge it either way, but that's what they're looking for. Health. 19 states in the US have regulated cannabis use. It helps with pain. It helps a lot of people that have cancer. And states have decided to regulate it and give it to their patients. Emotions. Some people find emotions. They have emotions and they need to cope. But when you go over the line, which is the red line, we're talking about addiction. People can begin by any of these reasons and become addicted. And that is the red line that you cross. This is really interesting and important in order to understand why people are using drugs, and they're using them more and more. Why do nice and bad people sell drugs? It's a very simple equation that it applies for most things. You pretty much weigh the expected returns that they're in Spanish here, but I was too lazy to translate it this morning, but it would be good for you to learn some words too. Most of them are financial reasons. They want to get money. Personal reasons. Status. Having a job. Think about the people that are most likely to be small-scale traffickers are people that don't have jobs, and they can make much more money selling drugs than making minimum wage, especially in developing countries or third world countries. Power. Status. I mean, there are surveys conducted in towns in Mexico where kids don't want to be a soccer player anymore. They don't want to play at Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. They want to be drug dealers. That's what they want. That's what they want to be. There are little women that their dream is to marry a narco. That's power. That's status. Recognition. Social recognition. You have a job. You have money. You have power. What are the expected punishments or constraints that weigh into this equation? Well, penalties. Social. Society will overall most likely punish you for doing this. Your family includes a cost over your family, and you get punished from within your own family. Personal reasons. You get involved in crime. And temporary reasons that mainly include the risks that you engage in every time you're in the street, every time you're selling. And what you gain at the end of the day is you subtract your punishment and your expected punishment for your expected gains, and you get still financial returns. You get social awards, power, recognition, still there, and security. That is perhaps the most important incentive for small-scale drug sellers. because they become protected. They become part of the clan. They become part of a cartel, and they feel protected. And the cartels will protect over their families and over their loved ones. So there's a never-ending net of protection. And there is a little question there at the end that I didn't make that question. It was part of the first Freakonomics book that they published 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And it was a question that was trying to answer the reasons why drug dealers still live with their mothers. In a way, what I explained you, the margins of money that small-scale drug dealers make are really small. The big money, the big cuts taken by the big narco. When someone sells a gram of cocaine, it's not making an investment of $20 to get $480. No, they're usually small cuts, and they're usually hired by drug cartels to sell drugs, to watch over the corner, and to protect the big dealers. So it's a little combo. And you're pretty much trapped. And the most important thing, and I'm going to talk about this later, is that most drug dealers, small-scale drug dealers, are also addicted to drugs. So they're forced to sell drugs in order to provide for their own addiction. And that is perhaps the most dangerous profile of a seller, that is willing to do everything to just provide for your own need. Prohibition pretty much is based on the idea that we can achieve a world free of drugs, where drugs will be not available, where people will not use drugs, and we can get rid of the problem. The issue is that when you prohibit a drug, you do it under a framework of repression. Mano dura is a strong hand, no tolerance. You criminalize, that's one of the bases of prohibition, using drugs, selling drugs, having drugs makes you a criminal. If there's no information, parents cannot talk about drugs with their kids, there's no education about it, and society pretends that the problem doesn't exist because it shouldn't exist. In their eyes, you stigmatize people because they use drugs, especially lower income people, that they're the most visible, not the biggest users, and you punish. When you do that, when you implement these policies or these beliefs, what you do is that you push the drug user to the shadows, to a corner. When you put that person in that corner, any support net, the state, the government, family, friends, and organizations cannot reach that person. That person is hiding. And when that person is hiding, drug use is in the shadows. No one knows what that person is using. No one knows why it's using it. There's a relationship. We trigger a relationship between that user and organized crime. You force that person to go to buy drugs from criminals, to dangerous neighborhoods. You force that person to be willing to do anything it's possible to get that drugs without no one ever knowing why or how that person is getting that drug. It becomes vulnerable. It becomes most likely will get diseases like HIV and so on. And the most dangerous effect is that there is a high chance that that person will become a small-scale drug seller himself. Because it might be the only way to buy regular medical marijuana as the first step. There's no reason to continue criminalizing people that need it. There's no reason to give priority to a doctor that can give you codeine. They can give you a bunch of synthetic and plastic drugs that are extremely bad for you, but they cannot prescribe cannabis. The second one, we should decriminalize all drug users of any drug, just like Portugal has done it, just like Colombia wants to do it, just like the US wants to move forward with. There's no reason to penalize or criminalize any human being for using a drug. It doesn't work. We've seen that it doesn't work. There's no justification for it, and it's economically inefficient. Harm reduction policies should be applied across the board. That means that we should assume that people are going to use drugs, we should agree that specific amounts of human beings all over the world are using drugs, so we should focus on reducing harm. Make sure that they use it in a safe environment, make sure that we can talk to our kids about this, make sure that our governments implement real, honest, and pragmatic and evidence-based policies. Reducing harm has proven the most successful policy of all regarding drug policy. Free up jails. Ecuador has done it. There's no reason to continue putting thousands or millions of people behind bars. We need to free them up. We're turning them into criminals. And that is just bold amnesty that law of countries should implement. They should get back on the street. They should get and jump back into society. And the last one, and I'm going to explain it on the next slide. That's why I have the next slide, so I don't remember. Though I forget. It's quality control as a way of regulating. This is really similar to what a lot of countries have done with prostitution. While people might not agree that prostitution should be legal, some countries have said, well, it is illegal, but we're still going to control. They give a little sanitary IDs, hospitals won't criminalize women that are looking for help. They can get HIV and other sorts of exams without feeling like they're criminals. And the way this works is in a world, number one, in a world where we can control quality, we can certify the kind of drugs we're selling. One of the biggest problems with prohibition is that users do not know what they're using. Purity levels of cocaine usually range from 8 to 20%, meaning that 88% of what people are using is not cocaine. It's mixed with other chemicals. An infinity of drugs. People think that they take ecstasy and they're not taking ecstasy. People think that they're snorting cocaine and they're snorting rat poison. The only way to reduce harm and to control and regulate is looking out and looking at what really people are using. That's one of the biggest problems. People are not using the drugs they think they're using. And with that, we can control, reduce harm, identify, similar to prostitution. We will be able to know who's selling, who's buying, without criminalizing them. But if we need to intervene and we need to help, we know who to help, and we don't waste resources. We can have geo-localization. We can know exactly the points where people are selling drugs, just like it happens with prostitution in many countries. We know where it is, we can control, we can provide security, we can provide safe environments for people to do something that they're going to do anyway. Security, we can increase it. Happiness will increase. People will know what they're using. They won't become addicted at something they don't know they're becoming addicted to. And we can raise prices. Because I believe that prices need to be raised on a regulated environment. And need to be brought up to the highest prices of the drug market. Because with lower price, and how we raise prices, it's through taxes. And cannabis should be taxed. Drugs could be taxed. We can gain a lot of money, and we can use that money to educate people and prevent them from using and give support to the ones that are addicted. And the second scenario is what happens today. There's no control. You don't know what you're using. There is insecurity. There are no guarantees that you'll be safe. Most likely when you go to the corner to buy drugs, they could steal from you. You can get raped. You can get kidnapped. You're putting yourself at risk. There's a lot of dispersion. You don't know where these people are selling. They're moving from part to part of the town. They're destroying parts of town. There's no control. Infidelity in the sense that when you know who's selling to you, what's selling, you become loyal to that seller. And you know what to expect. And you can build a relationship with that dealer. That happens a lot. A lot of people have their dealer. They call because they know what kind of drugs they're going to give them, and they know the price, and they have certain security that no one's going to tell. You don't know if the guy in the corner is an undercover FBI agent, or is a real drug dealer, or is a murderer, or a rapist. That's what happens with insecure environments, and prices. They do price fixing. They can do whatever they want with prices. There's no way of regulating. So what countries should do? Well, you can do that too if you want both things. No problem. But we believe that regulation is the best scenario against illegal markets. I already gave you the reasons. I'm not going to go into that detail again, but we believe that it's the most efficient way to control quality, to improve harm reduction policies, and also to know what people are using. And the most important part is to take away money from criminals. So these are the recommendations.